Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Special guest today talking NHL 2020-2021 season. My good friend and the diehard Pittsburgh Penguins fan, Stephen Bouhadana. How are you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
I'm doing well, Madison. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Looking forward to talking about the upcoming season and all good things sports related.
Yes, all good things sports related. Alrighty. So we're doing hockey today, and I have up here the lines, or not lines, but the point totals for the upcoming season. We'll go through the 31 teams. We'll pick over, under. We'll talk about every team, what like moves they made and stuff like that. We'll start with the Anaheim Ducks. And these numbers are brought to you by FanDuel, where I normally would get all my information. Anaheim Ducks over-under is 51.5. Peter McGuire, I was listening to him today. He was on a talk show, and he was saying that he thinks Anaheim could surprise. Anaheim obviously has Ryan Getzlaf and all those guys. Corey Perry hasn't been there in a while. He's on another team now. I think Dallas, right?
Right, yeah.
He's on Dallas now. John Gibson, good goalie. What do you make about Anaheim? Would you go over or under 51.5?
For Anaheim, I'm going to go with over 51.5. I think that they made some solid moves during the extended offseason. It kind of seemed like last season. But Anaheim's one of those teams that they either score a lot or they don't really score at all. But I'm going to go with, for the shortened season, I'm going to say over 51.5 for sure.
I'm going to go over as well. I like their defense. Hampus Lindholm's really good. Cam Fowler. They have some good players on defense. And then there's some young guys I think can make jumps. I love Ricard Raquel. I think he's a really good player too. You got to give him a shout out. So I'm going to go over 51.5 on the Anaheim Ducks. And by the way, if you bet, it's minus 120 the over. So it's a juice number if you bet the over. So the public tends to agree with us. The Arizona Coyotes are interesting. Their total's 56.5. They made the playoffs last year and they won around. They beat the Nashville Predators in the bubble last year. I like their goalie, Darcy Kemper, and they have some interesting players.
He's great. Darcy Kemper is awesome.
Darcy Kemper is awesome. Would you go over or under on Arizona?
See, Arizona is one of those teams that they can score and they have a solid goalie. I'm going to go with the over 56.5. I like Arizona, and I think that they have a really solid offense. Their offense, I mean, they're pretty well versed across their top 2 and 3 lines. So I'm going with the over 56.5.
I'm going to go over as well. I like some of their defensemen, too. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's been around forever, it seems like. I like him. Good goalie. They have a couple ex-Rangers on their team, Derek Stepan, and then Antti Raanta, their backup goalie. But, yeah, Arizona had a good year last year, and I think there's some guys. Clayton Keller's another one I think could get better. I like the over, too. I think that's a playoff team in the Western Conference.
I do, too. I think that the Arizona Coyotes have really proven themselves as a solid Western Conference hockey team over the last couple seasons for sure.
Yes. Next up, the Boston Bruins. We don't like the Bruins.
We don't like the Bruins.
We don't like the Bruins. Their total's high, 73.5. They expect big things from Boston. Tuukka Rask had that situation with his daughter, so he couldn't be at the bubble. He opted out. He's back. Apparently, he spoke to the media. So he should be good to go for the season. They have a good backup, too, Yaroslav Halak, and then you got all those good players down there, Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron. So where would you go with Boston?
Boston, over 73.5 or under 73.5. I got to go under 73.5. I don't really see Boston scoring more than 73.5 goals in a season.
No, you mean over the points.
Yes, over. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I don't see them. I don't see them going over. They're a great team, but again, like you were saying, they have a solid defense and a solid goalie, so
I don't think Tuukka Rask is all that good anymore. They have a good backup goalie.
No, after what happened last season in the bubble when he left, and I don't feel that Rask is up to what he was in previous seasons. But no, I'm gonna go with the under 73.5.
I'm gonna go under as well. I do not. They're in our division now. They're in our favorite teams' division.
Right.
Pittsburgh and the Rangers and Philly, and I don't think they win the division. I think this is still a playoff team in the East, in the new East division, but I'm going to go under 73.5. I think that David Pasternak's have a big year, and I think that Bergeron has one more great year, and I think he could very well win the Selke again this year. Next up is the Buffalo Sabres. They made some interesting moves. Taylor Hall's there now, Eric Stahl. I have questions about their goaltending situation. I love Rasmus Dahlin. I think he's going to have a big breakthrough year this year. It's the number one overall pick a couple years ago. Where are you leaning, over or under 54.5 for Buffalo?
I'm going with over 54.5. I don't know about, they have a pretty solid, I would say their defense is pretty solid. Their offense, obviously, I would say equally as solid, but their defense really comes through. I'm going with over 54.5. I think that, based on what they did in the offseason, especially like adding Taylor Hall to the mix, I think Taylor Hall has really yet to find a place to really excel and pair well on a line with other players that kind of help him rather than just playing alongside other players. So I'm going to go with the over 54.5. I don't know. It looks like you have some mixed reactions.
I'm going under because I am not sold on their goaltending situation. The Sabres, I think, were not done a favor by being put in the new East Division with the likes of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Boston.
Right.
So somebody has to go under, and I think it's Buffalo. And I think they'll be good. But not good enough. I'm going to go under. I think it's a slight under. I'd say they finish with like 53, 52 points. All due respect to Jack Eichel, who is awesome. Calgary Flames is 62.5. They're an interesting team. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau. They bring in the ex-Canucks goalie, Markstrom. So, Calgary-Vancouver games are going to be interesting this year. They're in the
Calgary-Vancouver games are going to be really interesting.
In the same division. Mark Giordano's been around a long time on defense. Where are you leaning for Calgary?
Simply based on what they did in bringing Markstrom from Vancouver, I'm going with over 62.5. I firmly believe that Calgary can play, if they hold true, they can play really well this season. But I'm going with the over 62.5 just based on bringing Markstrom and having a solid goalie. When he's on top of his game, he's amazing. And being in an all-Canadian division really puts them in a place where they can take advantage of that. Especially having Markstrom, and they're going to be playing so many games against Vancouver themselves. I'm going with over 62.5.
I'm going over as well. I think they could very well win this Canadian division. I think that's probably one of the weaker divisions, amazingly enough. Because there's some teams I think are going to be taking a step back, which we'll get to, but Calgary, I'm going over. I love Johnny Gaudreau. He's awesome. Markstrom's a big addition. That's an easy upgrade in goal. Who was there last year? Cam Talbot, right?
Yes.
The former Ranger. Yeah, Cam Talbot's not very good. I think he's one of the more overrated goalies in the league. But yeah, over 62.5 for the Calgary Flames for sure. I'm with you there. Carolina, they're no longer in our division for this year. Our team's division. They're in the other division. They're in that new Central Division or Atlantic Division with like Chicago, Tampa. They're in that weird division. Columbus is in there too, which we'll get to. 71.5. They made some interesting moves this offseason. Where are you going?
I'm going under 71.5. I don't know. I can't see them going over.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah, that's a lot of points. And I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes have been a solid team, but for me, they kind of fail to bring that full presence every season, especially during such a shortened season. I don't know. I'm going with under 71.5.
You might have just talked me into the under. I don't really love their goaltending situation. That's, to me, their biggest weakness in goal. And I love Sebastian Aho. I love the other kid, the number 2 pick from the draft a couple years ago. I'm blanking on his name, but it'll occur to me. They have some good players. Their defense is really good. Dougie Hamilton, he came back for the bubble,
right?
And they swept the Rangers, and then they got swept by Boston. I think didn't they get swept by Boston?
Yes, you're right.
I vaguely remember that from the summer. So I'm gonna go under with Carolina. I don't feel super about it, but I'm gonna go with the under. And by the way, the public tends to agree with us. It's -120. Next up is the Chicago Blackhawks. Total is 48.5. I kind of think it's sort of low. I don't love the Blackhawks, but in a little bit of a weaker division than they normally are, because they're normally in the Central. But some of their normal opponents are in that other division with Vegas and all the California teams. Obviously, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane's still there, Doug Keith, Brett Seabrook, all the guys from that Cup team.
Right.
But I'm going to actually go under here because
Wow.
I just realized that Malcolm Subban is their starting goalie.
Wow, under 48 and a half because
Yes.
Malcolm Subban is the starting goalie.
Not just that. I don't think they're deep. I don't think they're as deep as they used to be. They have some nice young players, but I think it's close. I mean, if I'm wrong on any of these, and it's going to come back to bite me, it could be this one. Because Patrick Kane, I think, could single-handedly get that team to the postseason if things break right.
And I think with what you just said, I think you convinced me that the under, I mean, it's just so low, so it's pretty close to call, but I think you kind of convinced me that the under 48 and a half, especially with the realigned divisions, I think that throws a real wrench in things as far as like who the teams are playing. So it's so hard to tell because of the realignment and the fact that teams are just going to be playing each other over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah, so I'm going to go under. I don't feel great about this one. And by the way, the juice is on the over, so the public disagrees with us. So if we took the under here, if we actually bet on the under, then we get the better end of the value if the under were to come through. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche. This is a good team out they're in the new West Division with like Vegas and everybody. So 76.5, great offense, McKinnon and
This team holds depth scoring.
yes.
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm going with the over 76.5. I think the Colorado Avalanche have a serious chance at making a great cup run.
Yes.
I really like the Colorado Avalanche. I think that they're a really solid team. I'm going with the over 76.5.
I'm going over as well. I think they could very well win this division. I don't know if they actually will because Vegas is in there as well. But I'm going to go over. By the way, Cale Makar is a candidate for the Norris.
100%.
I love that kid. He is so good. And then that kid, Samuel Girard, they stole him from Nashville in that trade. It was a 3-way trade with Ottawa, Nashville, and Colorado. And who went from, I want to say it was Matt Duchene. Was it Matt Duchene in that deal?
I don't recall.
I think it might have been Matt Duchene. I don't remember who it was, but I remember Ottawa was in that trade. I think it was Matt Duchene. Ottawa traded Matt Duchene to Nashville. And then Colorado was in that deal. Or no, Colorado traded Duchene to Ottawa. That's what it was. That was so long ago. And then Samuel Girard went to Colorado. And I remember thinking, oh, they stole this guy from Nashville. Nashville does produce very good defensemen. But yeah, I'm going over at the Colorado Avalanche. Columbus is next, 63.5. John Tortorella is their coach. That is a tough one. They are no longer, for right now, in the same division as our two favorite teams. They're in the other division with Carolina. I love Seth Jones. He's awesome. They got Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was in trade rumors. I noticed that he was in trade rumors. That's what made me that had me scratching my head. Like, really? That guy's supposed to be good. And then they have two really good goaltenders, Jonas Corposalo and Elvis Merklins, and they're going back and forth with them in the bubble. Where are you leaning for Columbus?
I'm going with the under 63.5. I think Columbus is a great team, but it's so tough with their goalie situation. I think we saw a lot of that in the bubble as far as, Elvis Merzlikins did great, and I mean he did great when the season was rolling, pre-COVID.
Yep.
But I also feel that it's really tough for them, especially because they had goalie problems before that. I'm going with the under 63.5. No disrespect to the Blue Jackets, but I don't really see them going, over. I'm sticking with the under.
I'm gonna go over. I disagree with you here. I really think that Seth Jones is a mega star. I think they'll sort out the goalie thing. Maybe they trade one of them for an offensive player. I think that'd be an interesting bold prediction. You know what? Maybe they do trade one of those guys for I'm trying to think of somebody that could help them. Like someone on a team that's not very good. Like, we'll go through San Jose's roster, Minnesota's roster or something like that and say Minnesota's just a team I'm down on. I just think that there's some trade candidates on that team that can help them offensively, and then that team could get a goalie. So But yeah, I think Minnesota, I think, is a good trade partner potentially with Columbus if they decide to break up that goalie tandem. I'm going to go over. I think that's a playoff team in the Atlantic Division. So there you go, another disagreement. The Dallas Stars, your reigning Western Conference champions from the bubble, 68.5. So they bring back Antoine Khudobin, Jamie Benn's still there, Tyler Sagan's still there. I remember when Tyler Sagan was traded from Boston to Dallas, like it was yesterday. Like that was.
He's been an excellent addition to Dallas.
Yeah, he's pretty much changed that team. I remember when he got traded. I remember being out somewhere, and I'm like, Boston really just traded Tyler Sagan? And that was like 8 years ago. And he really has helped turn that franchise around into being a relevant Western Conference contender. And then they bring back the goalie. Miro Hiskinen's really good on defense. So is John Klingberg. Where are you leaning for Dallas?
Dallas, I'm going with the over 68.5. I'm going with the over. I mean, like you were saying before, Tyler Sagan, you talk about players that came from other teams and really had a solid impact on, the team that they were moving to. I think he's had an amazing impact on the Dallas Stars, and I think they're a really solid hockey team. I'm going with the over 68.5, even though the divisions are a little bit, realigned. I'm going with over.
Yeah, Dallas is in that Colorado-Vegas division. I'm going to go under. It's a slight under, only because they're going to be playing Colorado and Vegas
and I was thinking that same thing. When you said you were going under because of the division realignment and now having to play these same teams so many times. I mean, I'm sticking to the over. I definitely see what you're saying, though, as far as having to play, like the Golden Knights so many times. But I'm sticking to my over. I'm
going under, but I still think they're in the playoffs. They're probably going to finish third or fourth in the division. I'm probably going to say third. I'm going to go third place finish in that division, and they're in the postseason. Detroit Red Wings. Oh, my goodness. This team is not good. This is, I think...
You're not kidding.
This is the worst team in the league. They still have their coach that replaced Mike Babcock. Jeff Blashill, he's still there. Tyler Bertuzzi's not a bad player. Dylan Larkin's not bad. Their goaltending situation's a mess. Their starting goalie is the former Islander Thomas Greiss. Mark Stahl was someone that they picked up from the Rangers. I'm going under 42.5. I think the Red Wings are terrible. And I think Jeff Blashill could very well be the first coach fired this year. And Steve Yzerman came over from Tampa like 2 or 3 years ago. And people thought that this was going to be like a magic thing. But no, it takes a couple of years for these things to work. I remember when Yzerman came to Tampa Bay, and it took the Lightning maybe 2 or 3 years to really become who they are. So I'm going to go under 42.5, and then they end up with a top 3 pick in the draft or in running for it.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going with the over 42.5. I'm sorry. The Red Wings just are not good. No. And I don't think that they had enough time to restructure and rebuild over the last couple months since or probably more months than other teams.
Yeah, March.
I don't think that the Red Wings are going to go over 42.5. I'm going with the under 42.5.
Yeah, this might be one of my favorite ones, the under 42.5 from the Red Wings. I might actually bet it. Next up, the Edmonton Oilers. They have a lot of sexy pieces on the team. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, a ton of veterans in there. Interesting team. And they're in that all-Canadian division. Obviously, Draisaitl won the Hart Trophy a year ago. Their defense, I think, has some interesting big names on there, but that unit really has never gelled, although their goaltending's been so erratic over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, I don't... It's really tough with the Oilers. I'm going with the under 65.5 for the Oilers, especially thinking about the All-Canadian division and who specifically they'll be playing. And like you said, Draisaitl, obviously great. McDavid is amazing, but he can only do so much by himself.
Right.
On a team that is pretty solid, but has issues with goaltending from time to time. I'm going with the under 65.5.
This is a tough one. I'm gonna join you on the under. It's a slight under. Maybe it goes to 65 and they end up with 65 points. I think it's a very, 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 very slim under for me here. Goaltending continues to be their bugaboo. They get to play Vancouver and Calgary. Calgary is a great offense, as we alluded to. And then you have the Maple Leafs that are in that division. Now, Winnipeg, we'll get to later, but they have a good offense. So, yeah, I'm going to go under 65.5 points for the Edmonton Oilers. Florida Panthers, 60.5. Joel Quenneville's been there a few years now. You have Jonathan Marchessault there, Aaron Ekblad, and a bunch of talented players. Sergei Bobrovsky, someone has to have a bounce-back year for them if they want to be a playoff team. They're in that same division with the Lightning and Chicago and Carolina Columbus. Where are you leaning for Florida?
For Florida, I'm going to go with I'm going with under 60.5. I don't think that Florida really has I like Joel Quenneville. I think he's great, but I don't think that they really have what it takes to go over. I'm sticking with the under.
I'm going under too. They tend to disappoint every year. John Butchercross normally would come on my podcast. I normally have him on a couple times a year to talk hockey. And I remember I had him on last year, and he picked the Panthers to be like his Cinderella team. And he goes, but watch them disappoint because I always tend to be their jinx. So I'm going to go under 60.5 for Florida. I think there's a chance that some of those guys on that team could be trade bait. Keith Yandel, former Ranger, is on that team. I remember they signed him in free agency a couple years ago. He's a very good offensive defenseman, but he's not a good defensive defenseman. And if Bobrovsky's good, then we're probably going to be wrong with this pick. The Kings. I remember it feels like yesterday that they were hoisting Stanley Cups. They still have that same core together. Jonathan Quick, Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty. That's the heart of that team. Justin Brown, their captain. 48.5. I'm going under here because I'm going to go under because they're in that good division with Colorado, Vegas, and Arizona, who's better, and Dallas. So somebody has to go under. I think that they're still in the midst of a rebuild a little bit. I think either them or San Jose could potentially trade some big names this year because I don't think either of those – I'll get to San Jose, but I think those are the two most likely teams to potentially trade big names at the deadline. The trade deadline's in, I believe, April this year because the season starts so late. So I won't be, flabbergasted if, Drew Doughty isn't on the Kings in 5 months from now. Although it sounds crazy, but I won't be, stunned.
Now that you say that more, I think I'm going to take the under as well. I think that the Kings are a team that they have their core, but they need to restructure. Yeah. I think they're a team that is in need of a desperate restructure and rebuild. I'm taking the under with them.
Yeah, I felt that way about Anaheim too, but I feel like Anaheim has more young pieces in place than Los Angeles. Although LA has had some high picks recently, but I think they need that. I mean, do you know who could have benefited them? Alexis Lafreniere.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll get to the Rangers eventually, but I'm just saying that would have been somebody that would have sped the Kings reboot. Minnesota Wild, I briefly mentioned them earlier. 57.5 is their number. The public likes the over. Devin Dubnyk's gone. I've always been a fan of Devin Dubnyk. He's gone. I was looking at their depth chart. Their depth chart's just not good. Eric Stahl's gone. That's a big loss. I like their defense, though. I think they're going to be in a lot of low-scoring games, so I'm going to go under with the Minnesota Wild, although the public's on the over.
I'm going to agree with you, Madison. I'm going with the under. I definitely don't believe they're going to go over 57.5.
No. And they're in that good division, too. They're in that Arizona division.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going under. All due respect to the likes of Jared Bergeron and Matt Dumba. They have some good defensemen. Jonas Brodin. And then, obviously, Zach Parise. I'll never forget when they signed him from the Devils. And all my Devil fan friends absolutely flipped out. They're like, screw you. They're, screaming at Zach Parise. And then I remember he got heavily booed the first time he went back to Prudential Center because I remember it was the year of the lockout. And remember that short lockout season 8 years ago?
I do. Yes, I do.
And I remember you only had to play your conference. So the next year, my friends who were Devils fans went to the game. They just were killing Parise with booze. But yeah, under 57.5 at the Minnesota Wild. They're in a tough division. Montreal Canadiens, 67.5. I think that's high, too.
That is high. I was just whispering that's high as you pulled it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, as much as I want to be optimistic for the Canadiens, I
That's too high.
That's too high. I'm going with the under.
Me too. Obviously, Carey Price still there. All due respect to Carey Price, though. He was awesome in the bubble.
He did play great in the bubble.
He was awesome in the bubble. He swept. No, they beat you guys in 4, right?
They beat us in 4. Yeah.
Because it was best of 5.
He played great against the Penguins in the bubble. I think he has a solid game when he's 100%. Yep. I don't think that 67.5 really does Montreal any good. I'm going with the under.
I'm going under too. I just think that's just too high for that team. Claude Julien's a good coach. I love Carey Price. He's been a great goaltender for over a decade. They have some good young players. I think this team's future's bright with some of the young guys they have, like Kasperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki. And Shea Weber's really good too. I remember when they traded Subban for him, and everyone just went nuts. And they got the better end of that deal. Everyone thought that Nashville was going to get the better end of that deal, and then Nashville wound up shipping Subban to New Jersey.
Right.
So, yeah, Shea Weber's really good too. But I'm going to take the under on Montreal. Playing against some good offenses, and Carey Price isn't healthy all the time. Nashville, speaking of the Predators, 61.5 is their number. This is an interesting one. They're in the division with Chicago and Florida and the Lightning. 61.5 is interesting. Where are you leading?
I'm going to go with, I was going to say the over, just because Nashville tends to make the playoffs year after year, just because they have such a solid team. But I'm going to go with the under.
Really?
I'm going with the under just to kind of play with things a little bit. I think that Nashville is great year after year, but I think that this shorter season is definitely going to throw them for a spin. I'm going with the under.
I'm leaning over, but I don't know if they're going to make the postseason or not. I don't know if I'm going to pencil them in the playoffs or not. Pencil them or Columbus. I'm balancing
between. They
between.
could be a toss-up. I think that Nashville is a toss-up between, obviously, like you said, if you're going to put the Predators or Columbus in the playoffs. But I think it's all because of the shorter season.
Right.
I think the shorter season is going to play a large effect, especially when you consider like the wellness of players. Injuries that usually take months. You're playing a 48-game season. It's so much shorter. So I'm going with the under.
I'm going to go with the over, but I don't feel super about it. Apparently UC Saros has overtaken Pekka Rinne.
Really?
I heard that, but I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's going to be split between those two.
Right. I haven't really heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Because Rinne is flopped in the playoffs so much that UC Saros would just come in and save the day for them sometimes. I'm going to go over. Their goalies are really good. Their defense is awesome. Roman Josi and company on that defense is really good. And then Matt Duchene's there. Philip Forsberg, to me, is just someone that's been a little disappointing. I thought he'd be better than like a 60 point per season in a normal year type of guy. But probably based on their potential, I'm going to go on the over, but it's a slight over. But maybe they're the team that barely misses the postseason, or they barely make it. It's between them and Columbus for that last spot in that division.
I agree with that.
New Jersey Devils, 53.5. Jack Hughes year 2, Nico Hish year, Mackenzie Blackwood in net. I don't like their defense though, so I'm gonna go with the under. And I'm not a Mackenzie Blackwood fan either.
I think you just named every Devils player. That's the names you just said are the only names you'll ever hear during a Devils game.
Exactly.
So I'm going with the under too. I like Jack Hughes. I think he's a great player. I definitely think he was. I think he was overhyped as compared to his brother Quinn. But I do like the Devils' offense. They have some pretty young guys and some guys with experience, but they also have issues in net. Mackenzie Blackwood is solid, but he has his off nights. So I'm going with the under.
I'm going under too, and plus they're in that awesome division that features the Rangers and the Penguins.
Yeah,
and the Flyers.
Exactly. If I had to pick a team that I think, definitely won't make the playoffs this season, I'm going with New Jersey.
Yeah, I think New Jersey's easily the worst team in the new East Division. The New York Islanders, 63.5. Barry Trotz is a top 3 coach in the league. Anders Lee, Matt Barzal, great defense. Johnny Boychuk retired, so he's not there anymore. But their defense is still good. Ryan Pollock's awesome. And then they have Semyon Varlamov in goal. I'm going to go with the over 63.5 for the New York Islanders. I think that they make the postseason. I think this team is underestimated every year by the media and by fans. And I underestimated them the last couple years because they lost John Tavares and
right.
I just undersold them. So I'm going to go over 63.5 for the Islanders.
For me, it's hard because I want to say the over, but the new division makes it so much more difficult.
Right.
I'm going to go with over. I'm going to stick with the over simply because I think that the other teams in this new division have a little bit of restructuring to do, before they really turn out to be like an all-star team. I mean, I think the Islanders have some secret assassins on their team. I think they need depth scoring, but at the same time, they have some pretty good players. And like you said, Matt Barzal, I mean, he's amazing.
Matt Barzal's amazing. I like Brock Nelson. He's coming off a career year too. Josh Bailey. They have some really, really good players, the Islanders. Next up, my favorite team, the New York Rangers. 57.5 over under. Obviously, Alexis Lafreniere, the Rangers famously won the lottery and landed Alexis Lafreniere. Henrik Lundqvist. Thoughts and prayers go out to him. He was supposed to be on the Capitals, and now he has the heart issue, so he opted out for the season. That's for Washington. But I wanted to mention that here as we are on the Rangers. Igor Shesterkin's supposed to be the starting goaltender. I'm high on Igor. Chris Kreider, they extended him last year. Their defense has a lot of good offensive defensemen, but not really that solid of defensive defensemen. And they have a lot of depth offensively. Where are you leaning for the Rangers?
Man, the Rangers could be good this year. I think the Rangers could be really good this season. I think they, especially with the addition of Alexis Lafreniere, I'm going with over for the Rangers. I really don't want to just because I'm a Penguins fan.
Right.
But I'm going with over. I think they can be really good. I think Igor Shesterkin has a great season ahead of him. He did really well, developing with Hartford in the AHL. I think he can be solid. And if the Rangers produce offensively, then I think they could really make a run in the postseason.
I'm going to go over on the Rangers. I don't know if they're a playoff team because of the loaded division, but I think they'll go over the point total. This is similar to the Columbus-Nashville scenario, except I think the Rangers, Washington, and the Islanders, and maybe even your beloved Pittsburgh Penguins will be in that mix for like that 3-4 spot, those 3-4 spots in the division. I'm going to go over. I don't feel super about it, but I'm going to go over. I think Igor has a big year. I think Lafreniere will help them. And then I think Artemi Panarin has another monster year ahead of him. So I'm going to go over 57.5. Next up's a team that I don't think is going to be very good. The Ottawa Senators. 45.5 is the number. They have some young guys that I like. They traded for Matt Murray in the offseason, so their goaltending situation's a little bit better. They have some young defensemen that people are high on, and then they have some young players offensively that I think could make a significant leap forward. I'm going to go under, though, because of the division realignment, and I'm not sold on their defense completely.
Yeah, I agree with you on the under. I think they have a real chance with Matt Murray, but at the same time with the division realignment, I don't think that, Murray is really strong enough to carry the team. I think he's a great goalie, but I don't think he's solid enough all the time for him to simply carry the Senators to the postseason. I'm going with the under.
I'm going under too, as I mentioned, and I think that they'll be better than at least a trade. But yeah, I'm going under because I just think they're in a tough division. Oh wait, them and Detroit aren't even in the same division anymore. I'm so used to them being in the same division, but yeah, Matt Murray can steal a couple wins for them, but I'm going under. Philadelphia over under 67.5.
This is way inflated. 67.5 for Philadelphia. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Don't even ask me, Madison. I'm taking the under. Not just because I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, but come on. I'm so sorry.
I am going to join you on that one, only because the division's good. I think that they could win the division, but I just think that total's too high. Them in Boston, I think those numbers were inflated. But I'm going to take the under. The value's on the under as well, minus 110, because normally the evens with the totals are minus 115. I'm going to go under, but it's a slim under. I think them or Boston will win the division. Carter Hart's really good. Claude Giroux is awesome. They have some depth offensively and defensively. I think that could be a potential deep into the postseason team. As much as we don't like the Flyers, I'm going to take the under 67.5, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. Next up, your beloved Pittsburgh Penguins, 69.5.
This is high. Wow.
I can't believe how high this is. I mean, so Tristan Jarry's going to be your starting goalie. Crosby and Malkin's still there. Chris Letang's still there. Jake Gensel coming off injury, so he should be better and healthy. I think that your team's a candidate to pull off a trade to improve your team.
I agree. I don't really know. I struggle to comprehend the decision, really. I mean, I totally agree with the Murray trade, but at the same time, I don't feel like Tristan Jarry is an extremely solid goalie 100% of the time. I think he's really great, but I think when you have someone that is so young but so experienced like Matt Murray, it helps someone like Tristan Jarry. I'm going with the over simply because we still have Crosby. Gensel is going to be fully healthy. We still have Malkin and Letang. I think Jarry's amazing. I don't necessarily feel like he'll be the deciding factor in whether we make the postseason or not. I think that'll also depend on our defense. But I'm going with the over. And I do also believe that someone who can really make a difference on the Penguins this season is Jason Zucker. I love Jason Zucker.
He's good. They traded for him last year.
Yeah, they traded him, obviously, from his team, the Wild. But I think he's going to make a real impact on Pittsburgh. I think he never had the time when he came across from the Wild and then they got caught up in that whole the COVID situation and then the bubble. I just don't think he ever really had time to gel well with the Penguins. So I'm going with the over. I think he's going to make a real impact on the Penguins team this year.
I'm going to take the under. Sorry, Steve.
It's okay.
Division's deep. I pretty much went under on all the top teams in the division. I just think the Metro is going to be a clam. I think it's the best division, or I should say the East Division, not the Metro. I'm so used to saying the Metro. The East Division, I think, is the best division in the league. And that's why I went under on all the high totals and over on, like, the middle totals, like Rangers, Islanders, and then unders with some of these. I think, like, around the Philly number, like 67, should be the Penguins number. And I think Philly's number is right around the same, too. Meaning, like, I think they were right about Philly. But I think your number, I'm sorry, it's way too high. I'm taking the under. San Jose Sharks, 51.5 is the total. The public's on the over. And I personally am going under.
I agree with you. I was just going to say I'm going against the public here. I don't really see the Sharks going over 51.5.
Me neither.
The Sharks are just like the Kings and the Ducks. I mean, they have good players, some good, but the whole team just needs a huge restructuring. I mean, I don't know. I like the Sharks. I think they're a fair team. I'm going with the under 51.5.
I'm going to go under as well. I think they're a candidate to trade a big name, maybe Erik Karlsson again. Maybe I say again because he was traded a couple years ago from Ottawa to San Jose. Brent Burns, I feel like they might have a big trade in them. I think your beloved Pittsburgh Penguins are in play for maybe somebody that they could potentially throw on the market. Because I feel like your team always makes the big trade every year.
Yeah.
Jason Zucker last year. Maybe the Rangers will be in play for a trade. Who knows? But yeah, I think San Jose is going to be a seller at the deadline. Their new goalie is Devin Dubnyk. He might steal a couple games for them, but their defense outside of their top two is not very good. I'm going under 51.5. I disagree with the public. St. Louis, 71.5.
That's really high. I heard you about to say that's way too high, right, Madison?
Yeah, right. Very, very high. I love that team. Like, Jordan Binghamton carried them to the couple years ago. Obviously, you have Vlad Tarasenko, who's awesome. Alex Petrangelo's gone. He's with the Golden Knights. They signed Torrey Krug away from Boston. I'm going to go with the under. It's too high. I think they settle around 70.
I agree. I think the number is high, but I don't think I'm going with the under, but I don't think they're going to be too far off from it. 71.5 is just too high for me to go over. I'm going under.
Yeah, too high. Tampa Bay Lightning, 76.5. No Nikita Kucherov for the regular season. That's a big deal. Steven Stamkos still there. Victor Hedman's still there. Andrei Vasilevsky's a Vezina candidate year in, year out. 76.5. I'm going to go under because of the Kucherov injury. And I think that they still make the playoffs. I think they can get off to a slow start. They got off to a slow start last year, and then they turned it on, and then wound up winning the Cup. Or was that the year before where they got off to a slow start, and then eventually they lost to Columbus? But there was a year that they got off to a subpar start, and then were hot to finish the regular season. But I don't remember if that was last year when they won the Cup or the year before when they got swept by Columbus when they were the President's Trophy winner. But I'm going to go under 76.5. They'll obviously still be in the postseason. All due respect to the defending Stanley Cup champs.
I agree. I'm taking the under.
Way, way, way too high. Toronto, 71.5. That's another high total. Obviously, John Tavares, Austin Matthews. Their defense takes a hit. They lost Tyson Barrie to Edmonton. I'm going to go under on the Maple Leafs, but I don't feel great about it.
I'm going to go under on the Maple Leafs. Great team, but with the new division realignment, I think that there's teams that are just going to outplay them.
Yeah, they'll still be in the playoffs, though. Vancouver, 62.5. Braden Holtby is there now, replacing Jacob Markstrom. You have, obviously, their nice young core with Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser and Bo Horvat. I like that team. Their defense, Quinn Hughes is a star in the making. I think I know where you're going with this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the over. I love the Canucks. I really liked them before the trade for Braden Holtby, and now that they got Holtby, I just love them even more.
It was a free agent signing.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Jeez. I think that when they had signed Holtby out of free agency, I'm getting my words mixed up because of when Markstrom, when they had let Markstrom leave.
Yeah, that was a free agent one too.
And that was a surprise. I thought Markstrom really found a home in Vancouver, but I guess Vancouver didn't feel the same way. But anyways, no, I think Quinn Hughes is outstanding. They have some really solid offense and defensive players. And to add Braden Holtby to the mix, there's no way I'm going with the under. I'm sticking with the over.
I'm going over as well. That's certainly a playoff team in the West. I think that they're the 3 or the 4th spot in that new division, the Canadian division. Vegas, they're loaded. William Karlsson, and they have Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone. They have the combo in net with Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Leonard. Yeah. Their defense is loaded. Oh, speaking of the Canucks, we forgot to mention that they added Nate Schmidt from Vegas.
Yes, that's right.
And then Vegas signed Alex Pietrangelo away from St. Louis.
Yep.
I think this could very well be the President's Trophy winner. I'm going with the over. This is like the lone high win total where I'm going to go with the over.
I'm sticking with the over, too.
I'm all in on Vegas.
Vegas is a team that now is really loaded and ready to make an extreme, playoff run. I'm going to go with the over. I think they have, Robin Leonard is just, he played so great last season. And they have some really great veterans on their team and some young players too. I'm going to go with the over. We'll also have to see how it works out with their new AHL affiliate, the Silver Knights. We don't know what's going to happen as far as we'll see how their farm system goes just because they have so many great players that are signed to such, big deals. I got to stick with the over though. They're probably my pick. They're going to be my one confident pick to make the postseason. I'm going to 100% say Vegas is making the postseason.
Yeah, them and Tampa Bay to me are the two that I think are the most likely locks for the playoffs. Washington, 64.5. I'm going to go with the under here. All due respect to Alex Ovechkin, who I think is one of the greatest players I've ever seen personally. He's a great scorer. But their depth isn't as good as it once was. And I know I like Peter Laviolette, they're just in that loaded division, and Backstrom's good, and John Carlson's really good. They have questions in goal with Henrik Lundqvist opting out for the season. They signed him, and then he had the heart issue, which we talked about earlier. And then they signed Zdeno Chara to be on their defense. But to me, for Washington, slim under. Like a very, very, very slim under. I'm going to say they finished with like 63 or 62 points.
Yeah, I'm going to go with your pick. I think that it's a very slim under. I think they can really come close, but I'm picking the under. They have a great offense, a semi-solid defense, and now they're going to have, I think they'll see a little bit of issues with goaltending. I mean, you look at their 3 goalies now that they have. Ilya Samsonov, he did great with the Hershey Bears, 2 years ago. He did great with Washington last year. I don't know if he's really ready to be like a starting goaltender for a team like the Washington Capitals. I think he's amazing. I just don't know how ready he is to fill that starting role. And I also think that the other 2 backups, I mean, they can be great, but again, they have barely any playing time with the Capitals.
Right. All right, Winnipeg Jets is the last one. We can do this one quickly before we move on to the futures. I'm going to take the under on Winnipeg. I don't feel strong about it. All Canadian division. I just don't like their defense very much. Neil Pionk had a career year for them last year. I think he takes a step back. I like Connor Hellebuck. He'll win games for them. But to me, Winnipeg slim under, all due respect to their great offense led by Blake Wheeler and Mark Sheffley.
Yeah, I agree. Just because of the All-Canadian division, I'm going to go with the under. Winnipeg is great, but at the same time, that Canadian division is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But no, I agree. I'm going to take the under with Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm going to go under at Winnipeg because I think the playoff teams from that division are Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton, and probably Toronto. And I think Winnipeg and Montreal will be close, but not quite there. All right, let's go to the futures. The Stanley Cup odds are out. You can just see them right here. I'm going to go with the one that stands out to me. I like value per se, like a number that you think is high that could very well be like where Colorado is at 7-1 here come May. I think that the Blues at 18-1 is crazy. To me, that should be more like 12-1. So I'm going to say from a value standpoint, I take the Blues, but they're not going to be my pick to win the Cup. But I think that has the most value to it. But by the way, I'm not going to give away my Stanley Cup pick because they'll be on the big preview podcast that I do solo, which will be out next week.
Right. Looking at this, I don't know. Oh, man. This is tough. I definitely agree with you. The Blues, it seems high, like it could be, it should be a little bit lower for like looking at maybe a 12-1. I'm going to take the Hurricanes.
Oh, yeah,
I'm really feeling the Hurricanes. 19-1. I don't know. That seems a little bit. I think that should be a little bit lower.
Yeah,
I'm taking the Hurricanes.
Hurricanes as like the future call, the one that's low. Yeah, that is very low. They should be more like 16-1, 15-1. All right. Player futures, Hart Trophy. I'm gonna say the one that's very valuable on this board. Your boy Sidney Crosby's 25-1. That is super valuable. I'm sorry. I can't believe Sid's 25-1. This reminds me a lot of the NBA when I went through the futures for the NBA and saw that LeBron James was 15-1. And I was like, how is LeBron 15-1? This is crazier. But yeah, I think the value play is Sidney Crosby, but I don't know if he'll actually be my Hart Trophy pick per se. But I just think from a value standpoint, that's great value at 25-1.
No, I'm actually going to take the same. I agree. I think it's great value, but I don't know if he will. If he can or if he will, but I'm going to take your pick too, Madison.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with you on this one.
Yeah, that's ridiculous that he's 25-1 to win the Hart. Vezina, let's see. The one that I think is the most valuable on this list. This is a hard one. Darcy Kemper's 20-1. I think he should be more like 15-1.
Similar. Wow, look at even Braden Holtby is 15-1. I mean, this is tough. You think about good goalies and you think about well, you think about goaltenders and how they play, but then you also think about how they need to adjust and the different style of play when they're against on a new team and against different teams.
Right.
So I don't know. This is tough.
That is a tough one. I'll tell you who's overvalued. Tuukka Rask 12-1.
I agree. I think Tuukka Rask is
Overvalued. He should be more like 20-1. But yeah, Pekka Rinne 48-1. That's pretty valuable. John Gibson, all due respect, I like him. He's overvalued. Mikko Koiskinen 20-1. Cam Talbot's 20-1. Philip Gobert 15. But yeah, if you at gunpoint, who do you think is probably the most valuable number on the board?
I don't know. I honestly, Madison, this one's really tough to call.
This is a tough one to call. Who has the best value at this point? I'm going to say Darcy Kemper as the value call, but my actual pick won't be him to win the Vezina. Although I'm trying to think of another good one. I know I'm not a big Quick fan anymore.
Darcy Kemper's valued similar to Mackenzie Blackwood. I mean,
oh yeah, that's what makes it even more valuable. He's better than Mackenzie Blackwood.
Right, that's what makes this call so tough.
Yeah, I'll tell you who else is overvalued on this stump. Frederick Anderson 15-1. He's on a good team in the Maple Leafs. I just think he's overvalued. Let's go quickly to the Norris. Let's see here. Rasmus Dahlin 26-1 is super crazy value. 26-1 for Rasmus Dahlin, number 1 overall pick a couple years ago. I mentioned him earlier. I think he could very well be the breakout guy. And Cale Makar at 11-1 is absolutely nuts too. Cale Makar should be in the single digits with Roman Josi and John Carlson.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. What do you think of Quinn Hughes? What do you think of the odds they have here?
12-1. That sounds about right.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think it's about right.
I think that's right. I know that would probably be your pick because
that's good. Yeah.
Because I can see you going with him. But yeah, Quinn Hughes. I just think that's right on the number. But yeah, that's a good call. That could very well move up to 10-1. So that could be a valuable play. All right, before we go, we'll do random miscellaneous things. Who's a team that you think could surprise people this year that we talked about in our over-under segment that you think could turn heads that people won't expect?
Now, when you say turn heads, are you thinking a team that's going to really break out and do well as compared
that nobody expects?
See, I don't know if I had to pick a team that's going to break out and do well. See, we talk about teams like the Hurricanes and the Islanders that are kind of I would like to say they're quietly good. You don't really hear about them, but they're good teams. I got to go with Arizona.
Oh, that was my pick.
Really?
Yes. All right,
Yeah.
I'll go with somebody from the East then if you're going to go with Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going with Arizona.
That's a good one. Pierre McGuire threw out Anaheim today on the show that he was on. I'm like, no.
Really?
Yeah.
No. There's no way.
No.
No.
Although you went over on their point total, and so did I.
I just feel like they their point total.
It was 50-something and a half.
I think it was 50. What was it?
57 and a half.
Was it 57 that high? I don't know. I think that Anaheim is great, but I got to go with Arizona.
That's my West Club. I'm going to go with someone in the East to be different. I'm going to go with, you know what, you mentioned them. I think that the Islanders could sneak into the top 3 in the new East Division.
I respect that.
With Barry Trotz in year 3 there already, and maybe some of their younger players can make jumps. I'm going to say the Islanders as the sleeper in the East. A team that's going to disappoint this year.
You think so?
No.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, what's the team you think's going to be a disappointment?
Oh, my gosh. A team that's going to be... I'm so sorry. Oh, I don't know. I'm only saying it because I'm a Pittsburgh fan, but I so hope the Flyers are a disappointment this year.
I mean, it wouldn't be stunning.
Would I be surprised? I don't know. I think the Flyers have so much potential.
Right.
That's the thing. I think they hold so much potential as a team. They also hold. I mean, they need Carter Hart to do well.
Right.
I hope that they are a disappointment this year.
You hope they're a disappointment. My call for the disappointment team, I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens. I think that their point total is ridiculously high, as we talked about.
And I can agree with that. I can agree with the Canadiens.
I think that their point total is high. And if you're asking me for a West one, I'm going to go from the West, of a West disappointment. Ooh, I'm going to say Winnipeg. We talked about them earlier. They're of a good offense.
Sorry, Winnipeg.
Yeah, sorry, Winnipeg. I'm going to say Winnipeg for the West. I think their defense is not very good. And their offense will score with anybody. But I just think that that's another potential sell-off, trade-away players type of team in Winnipeg if things go really bad. And Paul Maurice would not be stunning if he gets a pink slip this year.
I agree.
Here's a fun one. I just like to make fun of people. Most overrated player in the NHL.
Ah, wow. Okay, you first, Madison. What do you think?
Ryan Johansson of Nashville.
Really?
I just think I'll never forget when Columbus traded him for Seth Jones, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, Columbus stole Seth Jones. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, Ryan Johansson," and everyone acts like he's this great number one center. But no, I think he's been a little bit disappointing since being on the Predators. But yeah, Ryan Johansson to me has been the most overrated player in the league for a couple years now.
And I don't mean to pick on one of my own, but I think you know who I'm going to say that's been pretty overrated the last few seasons. I'm so sorry. I don't think Matt Murray's really going to do that well with Ottawa next season.
Oh, that's a good call.
And I think I feel like he's happy to be back home in Canada, but at the same time, I don't think he had enough. He's really got enough time ahead of him to gel well with the Senators. Maybe he has it in him. I also, just looking at the previous seasons, he's definitely been an overrated goalie for sure.
Yeah, I think he just gets a lot of hype because he won 2 cups with your team.
Exactly.
I can't believe he went there, but I'm with you there too. Most underrated player. I'll go first here. This to me is very tough. I sound like such a homer when I'm going to say this, but I think Igor Shesterkin's super, super good, and I think that but the Vezina odds have him at 15-1, so maybe I can't go there. So you know what? For my pick for most underrated player, I'm going to go with someone on your favorite Western Conference team, the the Vancouver Canucks, with Elias Pettersson at 16-1 for the Hart Trophy, by the way. I just think he's underrated, personally.
I think he's underrated, too, and I think he is such an amazing player. See, that's funny because I was going to say, if you were asking me this question a year ago, coming into last season, I would have never guessed someone like Quinn Hughes. I think he was so underrated coming into the Canucks.
I thought that too last year.
But I don't know. I think at this point he's proven himself as a really solid defenseman. So there's no way for me to really say whether or not he's underrated or overrated. But I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say Elias Pettersson, definitely underrated.
And Darcy Kemper too, who I threw out as my pick potentially to win the Vezina. This is a fun one. Last one. We don't have time to do the AHL. Maybe we'll do that another day.
Yes, for sure.
Seattle Kraken. Who's a player that you think could very well be? Let's say there's a team that has like multiple of the same player, like multiple players that like goaltenders, for instance, that like a team with like 2 really good goalies, and one of them could potentially be on Seattle, or a team that's loaded on defense or down the middle. A player that you think could very well be on the Seattle Kraken in a year.
Where are you thinking, Madison? Where are you leaning on this one?
I'm going to go with the player that I mentioned to you earlier that my friend famously predicted that was going to end up on Vegas, and that is former Penguins goalie Marc-Andre Fleury.
Do you think so? See, that's funny because I was also thinking of Fleury. I was thinking Fleury only because Leonard is so good. No disrespect to Fleury at all. He's such an amazing goalie. I don't know. I have to agree with you on that one. I really do. I mean, if you're talking goalies specifically, I think there's a great chance you're going to see Fleury end up on the Kraken. But again, I mean, is another new team going to pick Fleury in hopes that he's going to do so well like he did coming from the Penguins to the Golden Knights?
Right.
I don't know. I think when he left the Penguins and went to the Golden Knights, he needed a chance to excel again. Right. And he did it. And he did it on Vegas. But I think now Robin Lehner is really proving himself as an amazing goaltender for the Golden Knights. He's found a home there. What's going to happen to Fleury, I don't know. I think it's a solid pick that he'll go to the Kraken, though, for sure.
I have one more candidate for you, Elvis Merklins.
I'm not even going to say that I was thinking his name. But I think that I don't think he's going to move. I think he'll stay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think he's a solid contender to be selected to go to Seattle, but I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think he'll be the one to leave, put it that way.
All right. If you asked me, maybe someone that's a forward or a defenseman. I'm trying to think of other interesting candidates. Maybe somebody that's like underachieved as a player, like that's a young player that's like never really lived up to potential, that maybe they'll take a chance on, like what Vegas did with some of their guys, like John Carlson or somebody like that. You know, I
agree. That's interesting that you said Carlson, because he is a player that I feel like has done so. He's such a silent player. He's so good, but I think he has so much potential behind him.
Yeah, William Carlson had the great year at Vegas the first year, and he took a step back, and then he's still good, but he was just magical his first year when they went to the final.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like who would be a good like forward to go to Seattle. I think that, I hate to say this because I'm a Rangers fan, but I have a feeling that one of the Rangers like forwards is going to end up on the Kraken, like one of their big name young guys, like a Capo Caco or the kid that they drafted 2 years ago. I'm blanking on his name. Vitaly Kravtsov. One of those guys. I won't be like stunned if they're on the Kraken. Maybe somebody from the Islanders potentially too, like Brock Nelson maybe. But I know every team has to protect like a certain number of players.
Right. No, I think that there's a high chance or a greater likelihood that the Kraken will select so here's my guess. I think the Kraken is going to select a really well-seasoned forward out of the East. That's what I think.
Yeah, probably. But I can't think of who that could be. Maybe I'll say that on the hockey predictions show that I'm doing solo next week. That will probably drop on Tuesday night. All right, so Steve, it was such a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you for having me, Madison.
We'll certainly do another show. Maybe we'll invite your brother Joe on as well.
Yes, for sure.
He's a smart kid. He knows his hockey, so we'll do a three-way show. We'll invite Joe over and do the show as well. And I hope to have you on again sometime.
Yes, I hope to be here sometime soon, too. Thank you, Madison.
You're welcome.